Hello and welcome. Silrace here with Escape from Tarkov. I'm going to talk about why the hardcore wipe is a massive communication failure by Ballstate Games. Please note that this is my opinion and you are entirely welcome to disagree. And the gameplay footage in the background was recorded during the last wipe, so it is not indicative of the current hardcore wipe. Just wanted to clarify that right away. It is there for your distraction while I talk and such. Also, before I begin to actually talk about the communication stuff, note that I am coming to this talk of mine from the point of view that Ballstate Games is running a business and that Escape from Tarkov is not just a hobby project, but something that should actually try to increase the player count and generate profit. Let me start with what I think is by far the biggest problem with the communication so far. I probably should have left this to the very end to try and get all of you fine folks to watch the entirety of this video, but honestly, I'd rather put this right here in the beginning so that more people hopefully hear it. Now, with that teasing out of the way, what I see as the biggest failure in the communication is that I have, at least so far, seen no announcement whether this hardcore version we now have is the version of the game coming out as the 1.0 release of the game or not. So, are we getting this hardcore version, or are we getting the version of the previous wipe in 1.0? In my honest opinion, this is an announcement Ballstate Games should be making very soon, because they basically have to if they plan to actually do a marketing push for the 1.0 release of the game. If they start marketing the 1.0 release without making that clarification, we will start getting close to possible claims of false advertisement, which could even lead all the way to civil lawsuits. And they can pretty much just avoid that entire possibility by making the announcement of which version will be the 1.0 release version of the game. With that all said, let me go back to the beginning, as in my start of this wipe and what got me to make this video in the first place. Having returned from a vacation, and I am thinking I would like to play and record some more Tarkov, so I started the launcher up and realized there is a patch to be downloaded. But I honestly didn't give it much further thought than that. After all, it gives me time to do stuff like laundry while the patch is downloading. So I start the game and realize that progress has been reset. Alright then. I guess I am starting from the beginning, and honestly that's not really a problem for me. However, the problem comes when I am starting to set up a loadout for my first raid. The game is telling me I can't put ammo or medicine into my secure container. So that got me to scratch my head for a moment before I realized that I should probably go and read the patch notes, because something had fundamentally changed from the last time I played. Reading the patch notes really made me scratch my head on just how incompetent this all looks. Let me explain that a bit further. First of all, the fact that this is simply labeled as patch notes in the news section of the launcher. That means once more news are added, the patch notes section gets buried behind the first page and thus is no longer in the main view of any player booting up the launcher. Also, quick addendum here. At the time I'm finally turning this into a video, the scenario I just mentioned has already happened. The patch notes are no longer on the first page of the news in the launcher. There honestly should be a pinned news message that stays on the front page titled something like Hardcore Wipe, everything you need to know. That way players who start late into this wipe can notice there are fundamental changes to the game right in the launcher. Also, there is this massive box in the game menu itself, when you log in or actually looking in the game, that could be used to house this information for the duration of this hardcore wipe. You should have a communications plan when you are running a business. Though honestly, the communications plan should be created while setting up the business, and it should be revised every so often to match the changes in the business. Communications plan doesn't have to be complex or complicated. It can be as simple as just including channels, frequency, what are the things which need to be communicated, and of course the channels, frequency and so on may be quite different whether you are communicating to customers, stakeholders, shareholders and other groups. Which gets me to my next point in this communication failure, the communication channels. Text in the patch notes reads check our socials. So why are the socials not linked right under the text? Or at the bottom of the patch notes even? The bigger question is, why should I need to go find your social media profiles, your social media accounts, to find out what is going on with your game? To illustrate this point even further, my social media usage is maybe an hour or two in a week, and I definitely do not spend that time browsing some game development updates. I am more likely looking for something specific, or I am making a quick post about my own video schedule. For the end of the video, I would like to provide a few quick ideas to Ballstate Games on how to do this better in the future. Generally, I do not like to complain about things unless I can provide at least something to help create a solution to the problem I am complaining about. First, I would recommend making the announcement on which version of the game is it going to be for the 1.0 release. This way you can start the marketing push for the 1.0 if you were planning to do one at all anyway. Then I would take a good hard look at the communication channels for your customers. Important information, such as fundamental changes to the game, should be plastered right to the players when they are about to engage with your game. This means the launcher and in-game, not social media platforms. Also, if you really want to push the usage of your social media over the launcher and the game, then you really should have links to those social media profiles and platforms in easily accessible places for your customers to find them, such as linking them in the patch notes or the launcher itself. And finally, if you are going to make this kind of big changes to the core mechanics of the game, you should announce those changes a lot earlier. Basically, market them to your customers and make them understand why you want to implement those changes, instead of just shoving them in. So that was my rant and ramble about what to me looks like a massive communications failure. Thank you very much for watching, and do hit the subscribe button if you aren't already.